What if I told you there are roads in Ontario where residents refuse to drive after sunset? Roads where car engines mysteriously die in the middle of nowhere, where shadows cross your path without any physical form, and where screams from the past still echo through the trees like a haunting, never-ending symphony. You might think I'm talking about some Hollywood horror movie, but I'm not. These places are real, they're in Ontario, and tonight, I'm taking you on a journey through the 5 most terrifying roads in this province. Places where even the bravest drivers have turned back in utter terror, hands trembling on the steering wheel, refusing to go back there again. Exploring the darkest and most haunted locations across Canada, uncovering the stories most people are too afraid to tell. I talk to locals, scour historical records, and piece together the chilling truth behind these paranormal spots. And let me tell you, what I've discovered about these 5 roads will make you think twice before taking that deserted road at night in Ontario. Ever experienced that? That strange feeling when you're driving alone at night and something just doesn't seem right? That cold shiver running down your spine for no apparent reason? Well, in this video, you're going to hear real testimonies from people who have experienced things they couldn't explain. Ghost hitchhikers who vanish into thin air. Soldiers from centuries past, still marching through the fog, and spirits so persistent they'll follow you home. Stick with me until the end, because story number 3 will absolutely make you double-check your rearview mirror. And I guarantee you'll never look at those Ontario roads the same way again. What you're about to discover might surprise you, and maybe, just maybe, it will make you understand why some roads are better left untouched after dark. So buckle up, turn off the lights if you dare, and let's dive into our first haunted road. But first, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button now and turn on notifications, because every week I bring you new terrifying places, true ghost stories and mysteries that will make you question everything you thought you knew about the world around us. We are a community of people brave enough to look directly into the unknown, and I want you to be a part of it. Now we're off to our first road, and I guarantee you'll want to keep your lights on after this one. Our first stop on the journey takes us to Scugog Island Road, a seemingly tranquil road located about 80 kilometers northeast of Toronto. During the day, it is just another rural road surrounded by farms and bucolic landscapes that you'd find on any Ontario postcard. But when the sun sets and darkness falls, this road transforms into something completely different. The locals know this very well, and for decades they have avoided traveling there alone after dark. The reason? A young woman who never managed to reach her final destination. Let's go back to the 1950s, a time of transformation for Ontario, when roads were still narrow and poorly lit, and fatal accidents were far more common than they are today. It was during this time that a girl of about 19 was returning home from a party. She was excited, full of life, with a whole journey ahead of her. But on that rainy October night, something went terribly wrong. Her car skidded on a dangerous curve of Scugog Island Road, crashed into a tree, and she died instantly. The impact was so violent that it took authorities hours to remove the wrecked vehicle from the scene. Since then, she has never truly left. The first reports began just months after the accident. Drivers passing through the area late at night began to see a female figure standing on the side of the road, signaling with her thumb up, asking for a ride. Most of the people who stopped described the same scene in striking detail. She is wearing a 1950s party dress, is completely soaked, as if she had just come out of a storm, and has a distant, almost lost look. When asked where she is going, she always gives the same address, a local cemetery a few kilometers away. The hidden truth behind this apparition is only revealed when you understand that this is exactly the cemetery where she was buried. What makes this story even more disturbing are the behind-the-scenes details of each encounter. Dozens of drivers over the decades have reported virtually identical experiences. They stop. She gets into the back seat of the car without saying much, only pointing in the direction they should go. The temperature inside the vehicle drops drastically, as if someone had turned the air conditioning on full blast, even in the middle of winter. Some drivers try to make conversation, ask her name, where she's from, but she remains silent or responds with short, enigmatic phrases. And then, always on the same stretch of road, very close to the cemetery, she simply disappears. There's no sound of a door opening, no sudden movement. She's there, and the next second, the back seat is empty. Only the dampness remains, watermarks on the seats, as if someone had actually been there moments before. One of the most striking testimonies comes from a truck driver named Robert Mackenzie. who in 1987 had this encounter and decided to investigate on his own. After the girl disappeared from his truck, he was so disturbed that he returned during the day to look for answers. He went to the cemetery she had mentioned and began walking among the old tombstones, searching for something that made sense. And then he found it, a tombstone with the name of a 19-year-old girl who died in October 1956, exactly on Scugog Island Road. The photo on the tombstone perfectly matched the girl he had seen the night before. This kind of revelation completely changes the mindset of anyone who goes through this. It's no longer just a scary story. It's a truth you can't ignore. What fascinates me most about this story is its persistence. We're not talking about an apparition that happened once or twice and then stopped. We're talking about decades of consistent accounts. People who never met but described the same girl, the same soaked dress, the same fate. It's as if she's trapped in an eternal loop, repeating that last journey she never managed to complete. The decisions we make in life sometimes resonate far beyond what we imagine, and in her case, it seems the search to get home never ended. The residents of Scugog know this story so well that many categorically refuse to hitchhike on that road, no matter how harmless they may seem. And those who have already had this paranormal encounter, well, they never drive there alone at night again. Some even take a detour of miles just to avoid passing through that specific stretch where she usually appears. If you've ever driven alone at night and felt that inexplicable presence in the car, comment below. I felt that, but that's just the beginning. If the story of Scugog Island Road already made you uneasy, wait until you hear the next one. There is a road near Muskoka whose very name carries a warning that most people prefer to ignore until it is too late. I'm talking about Shades of Death Road, and no, this isn't a name invented by paranormal enthusiasts or a tourist marketing ploy. This is the official name, and there is a very dark reason why the locals decided to name it that almost a century ago. Let's go behind the scenes of this story. During the 1920s and 1930s, this narrow, winding road, cutting through a densely forested area near Muskoka, became the scene of an inexplicable series of fatal accidents. We're not talking about one or two isolated incidents. We're talking about dozens of deaths in circumstances that defied all logic. Cars skidded on sunny, rainless days, experienced drivers lost control on straight stretches, and vehicles simply left the road as if pushed by an invisible force. Authorities at the time tried to find a rational explanation. Perhaps the road was poorly constructed. Perhaps there was a problem with the pavement, but no investigation managed to identify a concrete cause. The impact of these tragedies on the community was so profound that the sinister name became permanent, a reminder of what that road was capable of. But the accidents were just the beginning. What truly transforms this road into something terrifying are the phenomena that continue to occur to this day. Drivers who pass by late at night report seeing shadows crossing the road right in front of their cars. Not normal human silhouettes, but dark, undefined shapes, like moving black holes cutting through space. These apparitions have no physical body, no face, no recognizable form. They simply exist, cross the road at impossible speeds, and disappear into the forest on the other side. Many drivers slam on the brakes thinking they're going to run someone over, but when the car finally stops, there's absolutely nothing there. No trace, no sound, just the oppressive silence of the forest, and that unmistakable feeling that you're being watched. And here's one of the most disturbing revelations. Modern, well-maintained cars, with new batteries and full tanks, simply die in the middle of this road for no mechanical reason. The engine stops working, the lights go out, the entire dashboard shuts down as if someone had cut all the vehicle's power. The drivers are left there, trapped in the dark, repeatedly trying to start the car while that feeling of being watched intensifies with each passing second. And then, after a few agonizing minutes, the car starts working perfectly again, as if nothing had happened. Mechanics who examine these vehicles afterward never find any fault. It's as if something on that road has the power to simply shut down modern technology on a whim. But the story that truly defines this road happened in 1932. And even today, the oldest residents refuse to talk much about it. A family was traveling along the Shades of Death Road on a winter night. Father, mother, and 3 small children. Witnesses living on nearby farms claimed to have heard the sound of a terrible accident. But when they investigated, they found a scene that no one could explain. The car had left the road and crashed into a tree with tremendous force. But there were no skid marks, no signs that the driver had tried to avoid the impact. It was as if the vehicle had been deliberately thrown against that tree. No member of the family survived, and what makes it all the more harrowing is that the father's body was found with his eyes wide open, in pure terror, as if he had seen something absolutely terrifying in the final seconds of his life. Since then, that specific area of the road has become the epicenter of paranormal activity. Residents report seeing ghostly lights floating among the trees, exactly at the spot where the family died. These lights move erratically, sometimes approaching the road, sometimes retreating into the darkness of the forest. And most disturbing of all, many people claim to hear children's cries echoing through the night, calling for help, pleading for their parents. It's the kind of sound that chills your blood and makes you question every decision that led you there. The mindset changes completely when you're alone on that road and hear those voices. It's no longer about being brave or skeptical. It's about survival and getting out of there as quickly as possible. There's something profoundly wrong with the shades of Death Road. Something that goes beyond simple urban legends or stories to scare tourists. It's a hidden truth that locals have carried for generations. Knowledge passed down from parents to children. Never, ever drive alone on that road after dark. And if you have no choice, keep your eyes fixed on the road and don't look at the shadows in the forest, because they will definitely be looking at you. If you get that shiver just thinking about it, write this down. I'll never go that way. But let me take you even deeper into this journey through Ontario's paranormal, because what comes next connects us directly to the province's darkest historical roots. I'm talking about Highway 2, also known as Kingston Road, one of the oldest roads in all of Ontario, built back in the 1700s. While the previous two roads are eerie because of their unexplained phenomena, this one carries the weight of centuries of bloodshed, forgotten battles, and soldiers who never returned home. The hidden truth behind this highway is that it witnessed some of the most brutal moments in Canadian history, especially during the War of 1812, when hundreds, perhaps thousands of British and American soldiers died along this route, in fierce fighting, bloody ambushes, and forced marches that led them to exhaustion and death. What makes Highway 2 unique among Ontario's haunted roads is that its apparitions are neither subtle nor solitary. We're not talking about a single figure hitchhiking or fleeting shadows crossing the road. Here, drivers report encounters with entire battalions of soldiers marching in military formation through the fog, wearing colonial-era uniforms, British redcoats, tricorn hats, and muskets slung over their shoulders. These apparitions are most frequent near the old battlefields that dot the region, places where the ground has literally absorbed the blood of young soldiers who died far from their families, never having the chance to return home. The visual impact of these encounters is so strong that many drivers need to pull over, take a deep breath, and process what they have just witnessed. Some accounts go beyond the visual. There are drivers who claim to hear the unmistakable sound of war drums echoing in the distance, that rhythmic and hypnotic beat that marked the cadence of troops during 18th century military marches, and along with the drums, distant shouts, orders being yelled in Old English, the sound of muskets being loaded, and sometimes groans of pain from wounded men. It's as if the road itself had recorded these sounds in its essence and continues to reproduce them like a scratched record that never stops playing. The mindset you need to process this is almost impossible to describe. It's as if time isn't a straight line, but rather overlapping layers, and in those moments, the layers blend together. But here's the phenomenon that truly makes this road stand out. Unlike others, where the apparitions simply cross your path or disappear, here the ghost soldiers interact directly with drivers. There are dozens of reports of figures in military uniforms making hand signals for cars to stop, as if they were setting up a barricade or asking for help. Well-meaning drivers, thinking it's someone in need of assistance, stop their vehicles and get out to help. But the moment they approach, the figures simply begin to dissolve into thin air, not in a sudden flash, but slowly, like smoke carried away by the wind. You can see through them, see the details of the uniforms becoming translucent, and then, nothing. Just the emptiness of the empty road, and that unsettling feeling that you've just witnessed something that defies all logic. And there's more. Some drivers report encounters with a phantom horse-drawn carriage that crosses the road at high speed, usually in the early hours of the morning. You hear the sound of hooves hitting the asphalt, the creaking of wooden wheels, and then it emerges from the fog. An old military carriage carrying what appear to be wounded soldiers. It crosses the road right in front of you, and you're absolutely certain you're going to crash, but at the last second it simply disappears, passing through your car as if made of air. A truck driver named David Thornton documented this encounter in 2015. He was driving his truck along highway to around 3 in the morning when he saw what he described as an entire battalion of soldiers marching in formation crossing the road. He slammed on the brakes, nearly tipping the truck over, and when the truck finally stopped, there was no one there. He got out of the vehicle, searched for evidence, tried to find a rational explanation, but there was nothing. Just the silence of the night and his hands trembling uncontrollably. Photographers and tourists visiting the area have managed to capture some unsettling images over the years. Silhouettes in period uniforms appearing in photos that should only show empty landscapes. Translucent figures in the background that no one saw at the time the photo was taken. These photographic revelations confirm what locals have known for generations. That road is not just a piece of asphalt connecting cities. It is a living portal to the past. And here's the detail that truly chills the blood. There's a specific stretch of Highway 2, very close to an old military cemetery where hundreds of soldiers were buried without identification. At that exact point, something technologically inexplicable happens. Car radios that were working perfectly begin to tune into only static. That loud, irritating hiss that fills the entire interior of the vehicle. And then, within that static, you begin to hear voices. Ghosts of marching soldiers are one thing, but what if I told you there's an apparition that actually gets into your car, that sits beside you and keeps you company during the trip, even if you're completely alone? Because now we need to talk about Scugog Road and its most iconic apparition. So famous it's become part of Ontario's popular culture. I'm talking about the Lady in White, probably the most documented and recognized haunting in the entire province. And unlike the other stories I've shared so far, this one has something particularly tragic, something that touches the heart of anyone who hears it. A bride who never made it to the altar. The story begins in the 1970s, on what should have been the happiest day of a young woman's life. She was radiant, dressed in her impeccably white wedding gown, driving down Scugog Road to the church where her future husband awaited her. The sun was shining, the preparations were perfect, the entire journey she had planned for months was about to come to fruition. But life has a cruel way of changing everything in a fraction of a second. There was a particularly dangerous curve on that road, a curve that had already been the scene of several minor accidents over the years. No one knows exactly what happened, whether she was nervous, driving too fast, or something crossed the road, but the car left the road, rolled several times, and crashed into a tree with devastating force. She died instantly, still holding her bouquet of flowers, still dreaming of the moment she would walk down the aisle. The impact of this tragedy was so profound that it forever changed the energy of that road. Since that fateful day, dozens, perhaps hundreds, of drivers have reported encounters with her. The Lady in White always appears in the same way, a female figure dressed in a long white wedding dress, standing by the side of the road, usually near the curve where she died. At first glance, she seems completely real, as solid and physical as any living person. Drivers passing by late at night think she is someone in need of help. Perhaps a woman who has had car trouble, perhaps someone lost or in danger. The decision to stop is automatic, driven by compassion and the instinct to help someone in need. But when they stop the car and get out to offer help, she simply disappears before their eyes. 1 second she is there, clear as day, and the next second there is nothing, just the empty road and the wind blowing through the trees. But here's where the story gets even more disturbing. Some drivers report that she doesn't just appear, she gets into the car. You're driving alone, focused on the road, and suddenly you feel a presence in the passenger seat. You glance over and she's there, sitting silently, dressed as a bride, looking ahead through the windshield. She doesn't speak, doesn't make any sudden movements, just points ahead with one hand, as if indicating that you should keep driving. The hidden truth in these encounters is that she seems to be reliving that last trip, trying to complete the journey she never managed to finish. It's an interrupted journey that repeats itself indefinitely, night after night. And here are the physical details behind these encounters that make everything even more real and terrifying. The moment she gets into the car, the temperature inside the vehicle plummets. It's not a gradual drop, it's instantaneous and dramatic. as if someone had thrown ice inside the car. Drivers who were comfortable seconds before begin to tremble uncontrollably, seeing their own breath condense in the cold air. And then comes the perfume. An intense aroma of fresh flowers, roses, lilies, all the flowers you would expect to find in a bridal bouquet, completely floods the interior of the vehicle. It's so strong that it's almost suffocating, as if you were inside a closed flower shop without ventilation. But the detail that really makes people question their sanity is the marks on the windows. After the car disappears, drivers notice wet handprints on the glass, perfect impressions of palms and fingers, as if someone had just washed their hands and pressed them against the window. These marks remain there for hours, sometimes for days, even after you clean the glass. It's physical, tangible proof that something really happened, that you weren't imagining things. These physical revelations completely transform the mindset of those who experience this. It's no longer possible to convince yourself that it was just your imagination or road fatigue when you have concrete evidence staring back at you. One of the most moving stories comes from a man named Thomas Reed, who in 2003 had this encounter and was never the same again. He was driving home after a long shift at work, tired but alert, when he saw the lady in white on the side of the road. He stopped. She got into the car, and for the next 15 minutes they drove together in absolute silence. Thomas says he felt a deep sadness emanating from her, as if all the pain and loss of that fateful day was still alive within that apparition. When he finally approached the church where she was supposed to have been married, a building that still exists today, she simply disappeared, leaving only the scent of flowers and the marks of wet hands on the passenger window. Thomas never drove that road at night again. He takes detours of miles to avoid it, because that encounter changed something fundamental within him, an understanding that there are things in this world that go far beyond what our senses can explain. The lady in white continues to appear to this day, not less frequently, not weaker. She is as present now as she was 50 years ago. It's as if the trauma of that day was etched into the road itself, and she is eternally trapped in that loop, trying to reach her final destination. If you believe that some souls truly get trapped here, write this down. She deserved to arrive. And that brings us to the final stretch of our journey, and I need to be completely honest with you. This one is unlike any other. If the previous 4 roads made you uneasy, prepare yourself, because Gore Road in the Niagara region isn't just haunted, it's deadly. It has such an extensive, well-documented history of deaths that local authorities have had to install official warning signs along its entire length. We're talking hundreds of recorded deaths over decades, inexplicable accidents that happen with a frequency that defies any logical explanation. The curves are treacherous, yes, but there's something else going on there, something the locals know all too well, something that makes them completely avoid that road after 9 o'clock at night. The hidden truth behind Gore Road dates back to the 19th century, when the area was used for public executions. Convicted criminals were taken there, hanged from specific trees along the road, and left hanging as a warning to others. It was a brutal time, where justice was swift and death was a public spectacle. The psychological impact of these executions was etched into the very land, and decades later, when the road was paved and modernized, the echoes of that dark past never truly disappeared. The physical transformation of the road failed to erase the memory of what happened there, and the souls of those who died violently seemed to remain trapped, reliving their final moments repeatedly. The most famous haunting on Gore Road is that of the Hanged Man. There's a specific tree locals know exactly which one it is, and even avoid looking in its direction, where drivers report seeing a male figure hanging by a rope, swaying slightly in the wind. It's not a fleeting or ambiguous vision. Witnesses describe seeing every detail: the suspended body, the head tilted at an impossible angle, the tattered colonial-era clothing. Some drivers, shocked by what they see, stop their cars and call the police, thinking it's a recent suicide. But when the authorities arrive, there's nothing there, just the ancient tree and the oppressive silence of the night. This cycle has repeated itself for decades, with the local police so accustomed to these calls that their VA created a specific protocol for dealing with reports of this tree. But he is not alone. Gore Road is haunted by multiple entities, each with its own tragic history. There are frequent reports of ghostly children running along the road, suddenly appearing in front of cars, forcing drivers to brake sharply to avoid hitting them. These children, usually described as being between 5 and 10 years old, wearing old-fashioned clothes, run back and forth across the road, sometimes alone, sometimes in groups, always panicked, as if fleeing from something terrible. When drivers get out to check on them, they simply vanish, leaving only small footprints in the dust of the roadside. Footprints that disappear after a few seconds. The revelations behind these childlike apparitions suggest they may be children who died in the area during 19th century epidemics, or perhaps victims of accidents over the decades. And then there are the sounds. At midnight sharp, the locals are very specific about the time. You can hear the unmistakable sound of horses galloping down the road. It's not a distant or muffled sound. It's loud, clear, as if a horse-drawn carriage were passing just a few feet from you. The sound of hooves hitting the asphalt echoes through the night, accompanied by the creaking of wooden wheels and sometimes the cries of panicked men. They are echoes of the past, ghostly recordings of events that happened centuries ago, but continue to repeat themselves like a film stuck in an eternal loop. Paranormal researchers who have visited the area have managed to record these sounds on high-quality equipment, proving that they are not just auditory hallucinations or tricks of the mind. What makes Gore Road even more terrifying than others is that it has official validation. The warning signs installed by the authorities aren't about ghosts, of course. They're about accidents and dangerous curves. But the frequency of these deaths far exceeds what would be expected for a typical rural road. Paranormal investigation groups have documented intense activity along the entire length of the road, capturing on video apparitions, temperature anomalies, electronic voices, and even objects moving on their own. This evidence is available online, and it's disturbing enough to make even the most convinced skeptics reconsider their beliefs. The locals have unwritten rules about Gore Road, passed down through generations as a form of survival wisdom. Their mindset is clear: respect the road or suffer the consequences. The first rule: if you absolutely need to drive there at night, never stop the car. No matter what you see, no matter who seems to need help, keep your foot on the gas and don't stop for anything. The second rule: if you hear something banging in the trunk of your car while driving, don't look back. Keep driving until you're completely out of the area, and only then stop to check. Because if you look back, you'll see something you shouldn't see. And the third and most important rule: never, ever accept a ride from anyone on that road. No matter how convincing the person seems, no matter how desperate the situation appears to be, because what gets into your car on Gore Road may never get out again. If you're brave enough to drive around even knowing all this, comment, "I accept the challenge." So here it is, 5 roads in Ontario where the veil between our world and the next is frighteningly thin. From the ghostly hitchhiker on Scugog Island Road to the shadows that come to life on Shades of Death Road. From the soldiers who never stopped marching on Highway 2 to the bride who never made it to the altar on Mississauga Road, all the way to the lethal Gore Road with its terrifying history of multiple deaths and hauntings. These stories all have something in common. They prove that sometimes the scariest narratives are the ones that actually happened. The ones you can go there and witness for yourself, if you're brave enough. Now, I want to know from you, have you ever driven on any of these roads? Or perhaps you know someone who had an inexplicable encounter on any of them. Leave a comment below because I read each one, and who knows, your story might appear in a future video. And if you've made it this far with me, if you've gone through this entire journey without skipping any part, write below, "I stayed until the end." This shows me that this type of content resonates with you, that it's worth continuing to explore the darker and more mysterious corners of Canada. If this video gave you chills, if it made you think twice before taking a deserted road at night, leave a like below. It helps me reach more people who, like you, are curious about the unknown and aren't afraid to look directly at the mysteries that most prefer to ignore. And if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button now, because every week I bring you new stories of haunted places, unsolved mysteries, and the hidden truths that lurk in the most unlikely places in Canada. We explore the darkest places so you don't have to. Or maybe, so you know exactly where to go if you're brave enough. And look, there's a video over here about abandoned hospitals in Ontario where ghostly nurses still walk the empty corridors. If you liked this content, you'll want to see it. Click and stay with me there, because the story only gets deeper. Until then, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, some roads are better left untouched after dark. We'll see each other in the shadows.